What if I told you that perfect whisper-quiet cast you've spent years mastering is the exact reason you're going home empty-handed? You know the one. The lure lands so softly it barely makes a ripple. You feel like a ninja, but that's silence. To a lethargic winter perch, it's not stealth, it's a screaming alarm bell. Today we're going to tear down one of the most sacred rules of fishing and show you why your best cast might be your worst enemy. Stay tuned, because what you're about to learn will completely change how you approach cold, clear water. And I want to know right now, before we even start, do you believe a splash can sometimes be better than silence? Let me know in the comments. For decades we've been told the same thing by the old-timers, the magazines, the pros on TV. Stealth is everything. Be quiet on the bank, don't slam the boat doors, and for heaven's sake, make your lure land as gently as a falling feather. And most of the time, that's solid advice. Nobody's saying you should throw rocks in the water. This belief is so deeply ingrained in us that the perfect cast has become a point of pride. It's a mark of a skilled angler. We do it because we think we're tricking the fish, acting like we're not even there. But we've forgotten to ask one critical question. In the dead of winter, when a perch is half asleep and paranoid, what does stealth actually sound like to them? First, let's address the sacred cow in the room, the myth of the perfect silent cast. We all have this image in our heads, right? The line unspools perfectly, the lure flies in a beautiful arc, and it enters the water with a delicate shh sound, creating almost zero disturbance. We pat ourselves on the back. We think, there's no way any fish saw or heard that. I'm invisible. We've been conditioned to believe that this is the pinnacle of angling skill. It's what separates the amateurs from the pros. But this entire belief is built on a human-centric view of the world. We assume that what is quiet to our ears in the open air is also stealthy to a fish living in a dense, water-based environment where sound and vibration travel in completely different ways. It's time we stopped casting for our own egos and started casting for the fish's senses. So to understand why this matters, we have to get inside the head of a winter perch. Imagine its world. The water is cold, maybe just a few degrees above freezing. Its metabolism has slowed down to a crawl. It isn't actively hunting or chasing down meals. It's conserving every last bit of energy, waiting for the easiest possible opportunity to eat. More importantly, it's on high alert. In this lethargic state, it's incredibly vulnerable. Every shadow, every unusual vibration, every unexpected movement could be a predator. Its primary instincts are not feed, 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 but survive, survive, survive. It's not looking for a fight. It's trying to avoid one. This mindset of extreme caution and energy conservation is the key. You are not dealing with an aggressive summer fish. You are trying to tempt a deeply paranoid, slow-moving target. Now let's redefine what danger means to a fish like this. For us, danger might be a loud bang or a sudden shout. For a perch, danger is communicated through pressure waves in the water. Their entire body, especially their lateral line, is a highly sensitive vibration detector. It's how they feel a predator approaching from behind, how they sense the frantic movements of injured prey. They are masters at interpreting these signals. And the most dangerous signals are the ones that are unnatural, sharp, and unfamiliar. A slow, rhythmic vibration might be another fish swimming by, but a sudden, high-frequency disturbance that appears out of nowhere, that doesn't fit the natural rhythm of their environment, that is an anomaly. And for an animal on high alert, any anomaly is treated as a potential threat until proven otherwise. Let's talk about the simple physics of it. Water is about 800 times denser than air. A lure that enters the water silently from our perspective is still displacing that dense medium. When a long, thin lure like a jig or a blade bait slices into the water with minimal splash, it creates a very specific, high-frequency pressure wave. It's a sharp, cutting disturbance. Think of it like this. You can drop a big, round stone in the water and it makes a low, kerplunk sound. But if you skip a flat stone, it makes a high-pitched zip sound. Your perfect, silent cast is creating the underwater equivalent of that high-pitched zip. It's a sound signature that is fundamentally unnatural in the underwater world, and it travels incredibly fast and far through the dense, cold water. Now think about the natural world for a second. Picture that quiet winter lake. What kinds of things actually enter the water completely silently? Almost nothing. A waterlogged leaf might drift down, but that's a slow, gentle settling. A hawk or an osprey diving for a fish. That's an incredibly violent, explosive entry. A mink or otter sliding into the water. That's a definite splash and disturbance. Even the things a perch might eat, like insects, larvae, or small amphibians, don't enter the water in total silence. They fall from branches, they get blown off the bank, they make a small, distinct sound, they make a ripple. Absolute silence followed by the sudden appearance of an object is just not something that happens often in nature. It's an event that breaks the rules of their world. Let's use a very specific, real-world example that every fish is familiar with. Imagine a beetle or a caterpillar losing its grip on a twig overhanging the water. It falls. What sound does it make? It makes a tiny plop or a tick. It's a distinct but not an alarming sound. This event has happened millions of times over millennia. Fish have become conditioned to recognize this specific sound signature. It's a low-frequency, blunt entry into the water. It doesn't signal danger. On the contrary, it signals a potential meal. It's a clumsy, helpless, easy target that just landed right in their kitchen. Their instinct isn't to flee from that sound. Their instinct, even in a lethargic state, is to turn and investigate. It's the sound of the dinner bell ringing. So that plop is a positive trigger. It's a sound associated with food. It's a low-frequency event that tells a perch, hey, something small and edible just became available. It sparks curiosity. A lethargic fish that wasn't planning on moving might just expend the small amount of energy required to go check it out. This is the exact reaction we want. We want to trigger their curiosity, not their fear. The entry of our lure should be the start of the story we're telling the fish, a story about an easy meal. The plop is chapter 1, and it's a chapter that says opportunity, not danger. It's an invitation to come and have a look, which is the first step to getting a bite. We want to sound like a clumsy beetle, not a silent assassin. Now let's directly contrast that with your perfect, silent cast. Your lure slices into the water. It creates that sharp, high-frequency pressure wave we talked about. There is no natural equivalent to this sound. A beetle doesn't sound like that. A dying minnow doesn't sound like that. A crawfish doesn't sound like that. To the perch's highly tuned senses, this signal is completely alien. It doesn't fit into the food category, and it doesn't fit into the neutral category of a passing fish. Because it is sharp, sudden, and unnatural, it gets automatically filed under potential threat. The perch's brain doesn't have to think about it. It's a pure, instinctual fight or flight reaction. And for a slow winter perch, flight is the only option. It will either dart away or freeze in place, completely shutting down. It's crucial to understand that we're talking about more than just sound. We're talking about pressure waves. A fish's lateral line is an incredible organ. It's a series of pores running down its side that detect minute changes in water pressure. This is how they feel their environment. When your lure knifes into the water, it sends out a distinct pressure signature. A silent cast creates a sharp, V-shaped pressure wave that radiates outward. A small plop from a more blunt entry creates a rounder, softer, low-frequency wave, more like a gentle pulse. These two signals are as different to a fish as a whisper is to a scream for us. One is subtle and intriguing, the other is sharp and alarming. We've been so focused on being quiet to the human ear that we've ignored the loud message we're sending through the water itself. Let's get more specific about that pressure signature. Imagine your typical ice jig or a small spoon for winter fishing. It's often dense and streamlined. When you make that perfect cast and it enters the water vertically, point first. It's like a needle piercing a balloon. It creates a very focused high-frequency vibration. This signature is sharp, it has a fast attack and a quick decay, meaning it happens very quickly and then it's gone. And this is exactly the kind of signal that triggers a defensive response. It's not the rumbling of a potential meal. It's the quick, zipping sound of something moving way too fast and way too efficiently to be prey. You've essentially created a signal that screams, "I am a high-speed predator," and you've delivered it right on top of their head. So why is this sharp, high-frequency signature so threatening? Because in the aquatic world, only one group of animals creates that kind of disturbance: other predators. The attack of a pike, the slash of a trout, or the dive of a bird, these are all fast, sharp, and violent events. They create high-frequency pressure waves. A lethargic perch has spent its entire life avoiding these exact signals. Its brain is hardwired to associate that zip or slice with an imminent attack. It doesn't have time to analyze it and decide whether it's a lure or a pike. The instinct is simple and immediate. That sound means death is near, so get out of there. Your lure hasn't even started its descent to the bottom, and you've already cleared the area of any potential biters. Let's paint a clear picture. Think about a northern pike, the arch-nemesis of a perch. When a pike strikes, it's a burst of incredible speed. Its tail kicks, its body flexes, and it creates a massive, sharp disturbance in the water right next to its prey. That pressure wave is the last thing a baitfish feels. Now consider your lure slicing into the water a few feet from a perch. On a smaller scale, the signature is remarkably similar. It's a sudden, high-speed, high-frequency event appearing from nowhere. The perch doesn't see a 5-pound pike. It just feels that telltale signature of an attack. It feels the same type of pressure wave, and its reaction is going to be exactly the same as if a real pike were there. It's going to bolt. Your perfect cast is a perfect imitation of a predator. So here is the harsh truth we have to accept. Your technically perfect featherlight whisper-quiet cast is unintentionally mimicking a predator's attack. You are sending a signal of extreme danger directly into the zone where you want to fish. Every time you make that beautiful silent cast, you could be telling every perch within a 20-foot radius to either flee or lock down in fear. You then proceed to work your lure through an empty, terrified patch of water, wondering why you're not getting any bites. It's a frustrating cycle, and it's one that's built on a complete misunderstanding of how our target species perceives its environment. The problem isn't your lure, your line, or the spot. The problem is the message you're sending the second your lure touches the water. Okay, so if the silent cast is the problem, what's the solution? Am I telling you to start throwing your lures like a beginner who just learned to cast yesterday? No, not at all. The solution is what I call the controlled splash, or the natural entry. It's not about being sloppy, it's about being deliberate. It's about changing the goal of your cast. The goal is no longer to be silent. The goal is to create a sound that mimics food, not a threat. You want to create a small, low-frequency plop or plink that sounds like a juicy morsel just fell into the water. This is a subtle but game-changing shift in approach. It requires just as much skill as a silent cast, but the intention is completely different. We're moving from stealth to deliberate sound design. Let's be very clear about what the controlled splash is not. I am not telling you to heave your lure out there and have it land with a giant cannonball splash that sends waves across the lake. That is just as bad, if not worse. That's just pure chaos and will spook everything. A controlled splash is a small, focused, and intentional sound. It's the difference between a pebble and a boulder. We are trying to imitate a beetle, not a brick. It's a delicate balance. You want enough of a disturbance to signal food and attract curiosity, but not so much that it signals danger or clumsy fishermen. This is a technique of finesse. It's about making the right kind of noise, not just a loud noise. It is precision noise-making. So how do you actually achieve this? And let's break down the technique. It's all about controlling the angle and speed of your lure as it hits the water, instead of a high, arcing cast that allows the lure to straighten out and enter the water. Vertically, like a dart, try a lower, flatter trajectory. Feather the line just before it lands. You want the lure to lose its forward momentum and fall flat, landing with its belly or side, not its nose. This creates a much broader, softer impact, which in turn generates that low-frequency plop we're looking for. Imagine trying to make your lure do a small belly flop. It feels wrong at first. It feels clumsy. But you are retraining your muscle memory to create a fish-attracting sound instead of a human-pleasing silence. Let me paint a picture for you that I've seen 100 times. You're on a gin-clear body of water in the middle of winter. The water is dead calm. You can see a nice perch suspended just off a weed edge. You're shaking with excitement. You make the most beautiful, perfect, silent cast you've ever made in your life. Your small jig enters the water 5 feet past the fish without a ripple. You feel proud. You watch the perch. And what does it do? It instantly vanishes. It darts back into the weeds and it's gone. You just sent a predator signal right past its face, and its survival instinct kicked in immediately. Your perfection was your failure. The fish was there, it was catchable, and your technique scared it away. Now let's imagine that same exact scenario, but with a different approach. You see the same perch. This time, instead of that high, silent cast, you throw a low, flat cast. You stop it just before it hits the water, and your jig lands with a distinct but small plink sound, belly first. It feels a little sloppy to you, but you watch the perch. It doesn't bolt. Instead, its fins flare. It turns its head directly toward where the lure entered the water. It's not scared. It's curious. It's thinking, what was that? Was that food? Now, as your jig begins to fall, the perch is already locked onto it, interested. It slowly swims over to investigate. You've successfully triggered its curiosity instead of its fear. You're now in the game. This is the entire theory in a nutshell. Alarm versus curiosity. The silent, slicing cast creates an alarming, unnatural, high-frequency signal that a lethargic winter perch interprets as a predator. The result is fear and flight. The controlled, imperfect cast with a small splash creates a curious, natural, low-frequency signal that the perch interprets as a potential food opportunity. The result is investigation and ultimately a bite. We have to stop thinking about what impresses other fishermen on the bank and start thinking about what actually triggers the fish we are trying to catch. The fish doesn't care how pretty your cast looks. It only cares about the signals it receives through its lateral line. Send the right signal and you'll get the bite. So let's bring this all home. The perfect cast is for your ego. It feels good, it looks good, and it's what we've all been taught to strive for. But the effective cast is for the fish. The effective cast understands the fish's sensory world and speaks its language, in the specific case of spooky, lethargic, winter perch. That language is not one of silence. It's the language of opportunity, the sound of a clumsy bug hitting the surface. It may require you to unlearn years of muscle memory. It will feel wrong and counterintuitive, but the next time you're out on that cold water and the bite is tough, I challenge you to try it. Make a few casts that feel a little bit wrong. Aim for that plop. You might just discover that the biggest mistake you've been making is being too perfect. So let's wrap this all up. We've been chasing a ghost. We've been perfecting a skill, the silent cast, that in the specific context of lethargic winter perch actually works against us. The big twist, the real aha moment, is realizing that what we perceive as stealth, a fish perceives as an alien predatory threat. That high-frequency pressure wave from a lure slicing into the water is the equivalent of a silent assassin zipping past its head. But a low-frequency plop, the sound of potential food, signals opportunity. This isn't just a small tip, it's a fundamental shift in mindset. It means you can stop beating yourself up over a cast that isn't perfect. In fact, that slightly clumsy, more natural entry could be the key that unlocks the bite. Thank you so much for watching and for being open to a new idea. If this blew your mind or made you rethink your approach, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content that breaks the rules. Now for my final question. After hearing all this, are you going to intentionally make a noisier cast on your next trip? I seriously want to know. Drop your answer in the comments below.